park the car
Would you let go of my wheel?
Hey, come on! Hey, watch it!
What you have just seen is what's known as a glitch. Unintended behavior in a game that slipped past quality control during development. Glitches have been a part of gaming ever since its inception, and have been documented on the internet for decades. You've probably seen your fair share of glitches as well, and in a post I asked you to share your experiences with them. And racing games in particular house some of the most notorious glitches. Since they are inherently physics-based, they can lead to some wacky results if you know what you're doing. And so for this video, I decided to collect the best racing game glitches across various different racing games throughout the years. But to figure out which of these actually deserves the title of best racing game glitch, I decided to grade all of your submissions. So here are the criteria by which I will rate them. Number 1. Destructiveness. The more the glitch affects the game, the more points it will get. If the glitch is fairly inconsequential, it will get less points. But a game crash, a soft locked or maybe even a bricked save file will be awarded with more points. Number 2. Visual spectacle. In simple terms, how visually appealing is the glitch? If we see some gravity-defying movements or new graphical effects altogether, I will give more points based on how visually interesting the glitch is to look at. Number 3. Soundscape. Whether it's a harmonious combination of sounds or a noise so loud it could be classified as a hearing impairment risk, it will get more points based on how impactful the audio is to the experience. And finally, number 4. The XD factor. I don't doubt we'll see some truly outlandish glitches, and the more each glitch makes me laugh, the more points will be awarded. Each of these criteria can achieve a maximum score of 100, which will be tallied at the end for a final score for each glitch. Now without further ado, let's see what glitches we have in store. Starting off, we're looking at the now infamous suspension glitch from Gran Turismo 7, introduced in update version 1.49. Thanks to Lightstone13 for submitting this one. This update brought about some changes to physics, which also affected the behavior of suspensions. With the right tuning settings on certain cars, particularly making the suspension as soft as possible on cars with an already soft suspension by default, it can cause some wacky side effects with the car's behavior. The VW Samba bus was especially susceptible to this, and thus became the poster child of this newly introduced glitch. Immediately upon entering a track, the car will begin launching into the air, presumably due to parts of the car clipping into the track below, which causes the game to violently push the car back out, sending it far into the air. This effect even extends to the game's Scapes mode, which is usually used to make photos and animated wallpapers of various cars. It's fair to assume it uses different, more simplified physics, since there's no car that needs to be simulated for a race. Yet the glitch still has an effect on the car's behavior. Instead of launching it into the air, the game tries its best to keep the car on the ground, which leads to the car bouncing up and down, a bit like a lowrider. In fact, there's a whole myriad of results you can achieve from the Scapes mode, anything from falling underneath the map to getting stuck in walls. There's really no limits to what you can see with this glitch. In general, it's pretty spectacular to see a glitch this obvious in a game like Gran Turismo 7, which is generally believed to be extremely polished. And unfortunately, the glitch was removed in the following updates, and thus cannot be replicated today. All that remains are the various videos uploaded by players, acting as a time capsule to what might be one of Gran Turismo's wildest glitches.
It just keeps bouncing. Oh my god. Stop. Stop. I can't breathe. I can't. Stop. 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 It's Chorky. I'm actually legitimately about to throw up. I was about to throw up.
In terms of destructiveness, I will be giving this one 70 points. It makes each race you enter practically unwinnable by completely breaking the physics. But since you would hardly run into this glitch by accident due to the specific setup required for it, it's something that won't really ruin your experience. However, if we're talking visual spectacle, I will be giving this one 90 points. You get to see the various tracks from high up above or from out of bounds, which is usually impossible. And with how the escapes mode seems to deliver a near endless amount of effects, on top of the already very realistic graphics of the game, makes this one of the more visually impactful glitches I've ever seen. Only in terms of soundscape, this glitch is a bit of a letdown. Other than some violent tire screeching, there's nothing that particularly stands out from an audio standpoint. Especially since the escapes are muted besides some background music. So I will only award 25 points here. But for what it lacks in soundscape, it easily makes up for in XD factor, where I will award this one a full 100 points. It really doesn't get much funnier than goofy cars tweaking out on camera, completely shattering any immersion the game might have had. And the fact this glitch exists in Gran Turismo 7 of all places makes it even funnier. And so we end up with a total of 285 points for the suspension glitch in Gran Turismo 7. A very solid start, but I think we can do better.
But first... Are you a filthy little piggy that loves to consume disgusting slop? Then head on over to my second channel where I serve the freshest slop content up to 3 times a week. From terrible takes and opinions. This is the worst game I have ever played. To awful coverage of the latest news you'll forget about in a week. Damn, that's crazy. My slop channel has it all. Become one of the first slop-scribers to my second channel. Link in the description and at the end of the video. Yeehaw! Staying with glitches you cannot perform anymore, we have the bike launch glitch in the original The Crew, submitted by I'm Just Alex. Although the results are fairly similar to the glitch we've seen prior, it doesn't actually require any particular setup to perform. One of The Crew's weaknesses was the rather shoddy physics model, which can be abused using the bikes which were added in an update. Either by utilizing various points on the map with poor collision, or via a player hitting your bike at full force, it is possible to launch yourself way up into the air. This way you can achieve some truly incredible heights, and thanks to the game's auto-balance system, you will be able to oversee entire cities and beyond. But all that goes up must come down eventually, where the game will give you an unexpected speed boost upon landing, which will most certainly get you knocked off the bike. A wonderfully spectacular glitch in a game that's inaccessible nowadays. Thanks again, Ubisoft.
So putting this one on the board, starting with destructiveness, I will only give this one 10 points. It's fairly inconsequential to the overall gameplay. In fact, it's kind of surprising how well the game managed to keep up with all this, barely dropping the frame rate at all. But once again, the visual spectacle is pretty neat, and this time around I will honestly give this one 90 points. For the simple fact that you're actually able to look around really well while in midair. You're getting an insane view over the open world that would usually only be possible in the sequel with its introduction of airplanes. The soundscape is a little disappointing this time yet again, though largely due to The Crew's fairly lackluster sound design. The landing of the bike does emit a nice crash sound though, so I will award this one 30 points nonetheless. And lastly, the XD factor isn't quite as pronounced here, I think. While it is funny to see the driver pulling stunts while leaving orbit, and the subsequent landing potentially leading to funny crashes, it's simply lacking variety to keep the glitch funny long term. But I will still give it 60 points here. All in all, this leaves us with a total score of 190 for the bike launch glitch in The Crew. Definitely fairly spectacular, but loses its spark fairly quickly.
Now let's spice things up with a little glitch I'm sure nobody has documented before. In fact, I discovered this glitch on my own when I was about 6 years old, as I was playing my very first racing game back on the PlayStation 1. In Driver 2, you can free roam across the various maps across the 2 discs the game came with. Disc 1 includes the Chicago map, which includes animated drawbridges that open and close in regular intervals. Right next to one of these bridges, there's a strange looking area on the ground nearby. It looks like pieces of the sidewalk haven't been put together cleanly, and you can use this to go out of bounds. If you exit your car and walk backwards towards the river, right where the 2 pieces of sidewalk intertwine, with some luck, your character will clip diagonally through the ground into the water below. What's interesting is that movement is only possible if you keep walking backwards, as moving forwards will not move you an inch. It's also worth noting that visibly, there is no water to be seen due to the hardware limitations at the time, but stick around for long enough and the game will tell you that you've just drowned. This is interesting for the fact that it's pretty much impossible to drown through normal means in this game. In fact, swimming isn't even a mechanic here. So without this glitch, this is a failure screen you would never see through regular gameplay.
Rating this glitch, I will give it a 50 in terms of destructiveness. While you'll hardly run into this by accident, it will cause a full game over, which causes you to start over from scratch. Visually it may not be the most spectacular glitch, but the effects that you see around the character is something you usually would never see. So I will give it 40 points here. Soundscape has to be a flat 0 points though, as there's nothing to here other than the footsteps you're taking. But in terms of XD factor, I will give this one 60 points, because it is quite funny to see an out of bounds glitch performed by simply walking backwards. And also the fact that the game over text implies that the character you play as can swim. This leaves us with a total of 150 points for the backwards backwards slow walk in Driver 2. Not the most spectacular glitch of all time, but I figured I would use the chance to share this one with the world.
It's time to launch cars through the air again, and this time we're taking a look at Forza Horizon 3. This entry massively expanded the map, opening up even more areas to be drivable compared to its predecessor, while simultaneously making the whole environment feel more lived in. One of the ways they achieved this was by implementing a train which follows along a railway that leads around the map. In gameplay, there's no way to interact with the train. Like in many other games, it's unstoppable through normal means, and will push anything out of its way with ease. But there's one trick you can use to force an unexpected launch glitch. Submitted by meme-G7W3D. While ahead of the train, if you pause the game just before the train is about to hit you, and then unpause the game shortly after, your car will be flung high up into the air. Alternatively, this might also get your car flung forwards at speeds that would usually be unachievable. I presume the reason this works is the game not fully pausing all movement on the map when you hit the pause button. So in that brief period while the game is paused, the train will actually drive through your car, and as soon as you unpause the game, it will recognize a collision has occurred between your car and the train, where it will then forcefully shove your car out of the train, leading to the results we've seen here.
Grading the train launch glitch on the board, I will give this one 40 points for destructiveness. While it doesn't lead to any immediate consequences or progress loss, the accelerated speeds might be used to achieve some illegitimate scores on any of the speed traps nearby. For visual spectacle, I will give this one an 80. It doesn't launch you quite as high as the previous glitch from the crew, and also unloads parts of the map along with it. So I won't rate it as highly, although these two are fairly similar. However, this is the first glitch I will actually award a moderate amount of points for in terms of soundscape. The brief moment of silence builds up anticipation, which is then immediately relieved by the launch. All while the GPS is desperately trying to keep up with what's happening.
In 400 yards, turn right. In 200 yards, turn sharp right.
As well as the game occasionally hanging, which leads the refs to get stuck. In other words, if you were to close your eyes, you would know exactly what is happening. so I will give this one 50 points. A car launching across the map will never not be funny, but it is lacking that special something to make this glitch truly stand out. So I will only give it 40 points for XD factor. This leaves us with a grand total of 210 points for the train launch glitch in Forza Horizon 3. Definitely a classic that I'm glad never got patched out of the game.
Sticking with trains for a moment, Midnight Club 3 has a pretty fun glitch with its traffic. Typically, all traffic cars follow the road quite well and pay attention to the traffic lights, but there is a way to manipulate their behavior. Submitted by Interloper 7866, if you take a traffic car off its intended path, it can lead to very strange results. This is done the easiest by using one of the various SUVs and pickup trucks, and the idea is to push a traffic car onto any nearby train tracks. If dragged far enough off the road and close enough to the tracks, after leaving the traffic car alone for a while, the AI will try to reroute. Only that they will not just look for the closest road, but also consider any nearby train tracks. This process alone can lead to weird results, with the car phasing through buildings and anything else that stands in its way to get back on a path. Once on a train track, the car will actually follow the tracks from then on. The traffic cars even stop in the same places the train usually would for passengers. That is until it inevitably gets hit by an oncoming train. It's a pretty bizarre glitch that's unlike anything I've seen before. So let's put it on the board.
While having no effect on you, this glitch does break AI behavior for at least one traffic car, so I will give this one 30 points on destructiveness. Visually speaking, it's actually most interesting when the car is phasing through objects while trying to reroute. It's almost creepypasta material, in a way. And so while the actual collision with the train looks rather lackluster, I will still give it 60 points for spectacle, because it's quite unlikely you will see anything like this glitch anywhere else. Sound-wise it's nothing spectacular, but the train horn blaring just as it's about to hit the car is quite amusing. And so I will award it 30 points for soundscape. As usual, humor is fairly subjective, and most glitches we've seen at so far could be classified as slapstick. This one falls more into the obscure postmodern side of humor, which, depending on the person, might be funnier. Overall, I'll give it 60 points for XD factor, because I'd say with most people, it should at least get a chuckle out of them. In total, this makes for a score of 180. Despite being a fairly average number, it's one of the more unique and noteworthy glitches I've seen.
Let's go back to the Horizon series for a moment, but this time one entry backwards with Horizon 2, which features a pretty iconic speed glitch. Naturally, with racing games, many people want to know the limits of how fast you can go in each given game. What's the fastest car? What's the best tuning? And what's the highest achievable speed? All those are pretty common questions people want to know the answers to. And for Horizon 2, that answer will be a little unconventional, to say the least. In the game, it is possible to achieve speeds far higher than would normally be possible by abusing the rotation speed of the tires. There exists a toggleable overlay that, among other things, gives information on how fast each wheel of the car is currently spinning. This is going to be vital to perform the glitch. Before you get started, you need to get into a Lamborghini Veneno and apply a tune that makes the suspension particularly bouncy. I promise this is going to make sense in a bit. Once applied, you want to take a jump to get on top of some warehouses. The shape of the roof will allow you to position the car in a way so that only one wheel, the right back wheel to be exact, will be suspended in the air. Now you remove the tuning you applied to the car previously and revert it back to stock, after which you'll try to get your car into position. If everything looks good, it's time to slam down the accelerator. You'll notice that the other tires are actually not moving at all, but the lone wheel that is will keep spinning faster and faster, accumulating speed endlessly. You can keep this going practically forever, but at around 3 million kilometers per hour, that's over 2,400 times the speed of sound by the way, you can try to wiggle your car off the roof. Once you hit the ground again, you'll realize that the wheel isn't actually dropping in speed at all. It's completely unaffected by any kind of traction. Using this trick, the wheel will make the car speed up way more than it should ever be able to. This is best seen if you can manage to maneuver the car to the airport, where the long straight will make it possible to achieve speeds over 1000 kilometers per hour, subsequently sending the car past the barrier and out of bounds. Truly one of the best displays of a speed glitch I have ever seen. So let's bring it onto the board.
For destructiveness, I will be giving this one 80 points. Not only does this glitch completely break the physics of the game, but can also be combined with several opportunities to go out of bounds, which will cause the game to hang several times. And this in return might cause the game to completely freeze or crash altogether. All this breeds a fairly nice visual spectacle as well, seeing parts of the map you were never able to see either. As well as seeing the car fly forwards at ludicrous speeds, I will give this one 60 points for spectacle. Now for soundscape, I will actually grant more points here for the sheer repetitiveness of the engine noise. The car being constantly stuck at maximum revs, combined with all the tire screeching and collision noises, makes this one of the most irritating glitches to listen to. So it will get a solid 80 from me here. The part of the glitch which makes it the most humorous, at least in my opinion, is how the game is desperately trying to keep the car on the ground, which leads it to turn into a full-blown lowrider. It's also always fun to smash into traffic cars that will launch you even higher up in the air, so I will give it 70 points for XD factor. And this leaves us with a total score of 290 for the speed glitch in Forza Horizon 2. Making this the new highest rating of the video so far. Truly an iconic glitch for very justified reasons, but let's see if any glitch can still dethrone it.
So let's get back to the Gran Turismo series to see if there's an even better glitch. And there would hardly be a better place for it than Gran Turismo 2. The initial 1.0 version of the classic PS1 game was plagued by a plethora of bugs and glitches due to its rushed development. But there is one glitch that overshadows them all as the most devastating one. On the North American and Japanese copies of the game, it is possible to completely corrupt your entire garage and other parts of the game, completely by accident. This glitch requires you to have at least 9 cars in your garage, each of which must set a score in the game's machine test. Usually this is where you go to track lap times and compare different tuning setups. So for tinkerers, it's a place they'd visit quite frequently. The max speed test is what enables this glitch, and anyone who would use it might run into it. In simple terms, if you save more than 8 records in the max speed test with different cars, while also saving them under long names, the next time you visit your garage, you will find that it is filled with hundreds of invalid entries, with some of your previously owned cars overwritten by them as well. Each of the hundreds of new cars is simply named no name, no name, and are racing modified Miatas. This glitch will also corrupt some or all of your garage information. And if that wasn't enough, there is a way to corrupt your save file even further. By rearranging any of the cars in the garage, it is possible to trigger more effects, such as giving you large amounts of credits the game isn't able to display properly, obtain certain license test results, or change the name of your existing records, to name a few. In fact, if you were to attempt and fail a license test while in this state, then save and enter a name for the record, the game will crash entirely. The reason why all of this is happening is because you pushed certain values from the machine test into the garage data by adding too many entries under long record names. The game doesn't know what to do with this new data in an area it's not supposed to be in.
Excuse me, what the actual f*** are you doing in my...
And so begins to fill the rest of your garage with what's known as garbage, which comes in the form of the buggy Miatas we saw earlier. No shade towards the Miatas though. You're not garbage. We love you. This garbage can then bleed into other parts of the game if you were to move it around within the area allocated for your garage data. Which is why we see various parts of the game get corrupted afterwards as well. This, among many other bugs and glitches, made it necessary for the developers to print and sell new versions of the game, which is why the glitch is not possible anymore in the more widely distributed version 1.2. This was all a lot to take in, so let's break it down by rating this glitch on the board.
Now, I don't think it's a surprise if I give this one a perfect 100 score for destructiveness. Not only does it completely break your save game, overwriting your cars and breaking other parts of the game, you could also genuinely run into this by pure accident. It represents the absolute pinnacle of glitches that completely break your game. It was bad enough that the developers had to work on an update during an era where you couldn't simply release a hotfix via the PlayStation Network. You had to organize a completely new set of prints for the game, which was really expensive. If a glitch is so bad it hurts the development team financially and ruins people's save games on top of it, it can hardly get much worse than this. Now, in terms of visual spectacle, I will give this one 60 points. Mainly for being able to see invalid cars that you were never able to see before, as well as also being able to break various other parts of the game. But unfortunately for soundscape, I will have to give this one a flat 0 points, as there are no sound effects triggered by any of this. The game simply sounds as always, and this is entirely menu based, so unfortunately I got no points to award here. For the XD factor, I can only award this one 30 points though. The pen just ran out. Editor, can you please help me out here?
What? Who are you calling an editor? You're the Fine, whatever you say.
Alright, thank you. And this is mainly due to the glitch only hitting a certain kind of humor. Seeing random symbols that aren't really supposed to be there is probably the most fun part about this glitch. This makes for a grand total of 190 points, the vast majority of which is clearly carried through the destructiveness. It's the sort of glitch you wouldn't necessarily do for fun, which is exactly the kind of glitch this scale heavily favors. But it was definitely still worth covering for how much it utterly breaks the game.
Now let's shift gears from something fairly complex to something more simple, but one that still has one thing in common with the previous glitch. In The Crew 2, it is possible to walk around select areas on the map. Thanks to Nero199 on Discord for submitting this one. Those are usually hub areas for the various race classes in the game, where you can try out some cars on display and interact with other aspects of the game. Usually it is impossible to leave these areas on foot. There are barriers all around the place, and the lack of a dedicated jump button makes movement on these fairly restricted. But with some finesse, it is possible to turn the game into a full-on walking simulator. On one of these areas there exists a ramp that makes it possible to walk along a railing adjacent to it. From there you're able to jump down onto a nearby bus, and with some skill can land on top of the area barrier. Interestingly, there are no invisible walls to stop you, so you can walk right off the hub down to the ground below. Good thing there's no fall damage. Now you're back to where you initially entered the hub area via car, only now being on foot and able to explore the map from a new perspective, including new areas you weren't initially able to get to. So for example, you're able to get into small niches of the environment and reach new places you were never able to see, such as the backyards of various houses, or able to explore the underwater area as the game doesn't reset you anymore. But unfortunately, it isn't possible to explore the entire map like this, as after some amount of walking you'll reach a point where the map isn't fully loaded in anymore. If you try to cross that point, your character will actually fall through the ground, which allows for some very unique views where you can see the rest of the map from underneath. The game still won't reset you no matter how long you've been falling, so you can fall continuously until you can see further and further into the distance. If you want to try out this glitch today, it pains me to say that it has been patched out long since. So all that's left is to wait for the game to be available offline in hopes of people working on a way to downgrade the game version so that people can finally perform this glitch again. You're still working on it, right Ubisoft?
Putting this out of bounds glitch on the board, I will be giving this one 40 points for destructiveness. Since it requires a very specific setup and you can easily just fast travel anytime to reset the glitch, I won't get as many points here. But seeing an unloaded map and also falling underneath it is definitely unintended. Visual spectacle is worth 80 points though. Namely because it is one of the more interesting out of bounds glitches where you get to see other parts of the map that are still surprisingly fleshed out. For example, the backyards I showcased earlier still had some decorations on them like plants, tables and chairs. Which is completely unnecessary given you would never see this area through normal means. If you were able to extend this glitch to other areas of the map, you would undoubtedly see all kinds of new stuff. But alas, since it is only limited to a small suburb area, I won't award it more than 80 points. Just like before, Soundscape has to be another 0 unfortunately, because this glitch does not produce any additional sounds. And finally, for the XD factor, I think outside of falling underneath the map and finding deformed parts of the map, it isn't particularly the most funny one. So I will only give it 10 points here. And so despite the fairly rather low score of 130, this could have easily been one of the most interesting glitches ever if the entire map was loaded in. I can easily imagine some madman would have probably walked all the way from LA to New York. That madman would have been me. I would have done it. Yeah.
One series I haven't mentioned yet is the Need for Speed franchise. And with how many games are out there, it's no surprise that they have their share of glitches as well. Many of them are fairly well known, but I want to shed light on a very rare glitch that can occur in Need for Speed Pro Street. There is no specific way to trigger this one either. It's a random occurrence that only very few who have played the game ran into. It's pretty straightforward. At any point in the game, there is a small chance for the audio to completely break for a second. As you can see, there were no collisions, gear shifts, or anything that could have triggered a specific sound effect. So it's unknown where this sound even originated from, and the distortion makes it hard to identify as well. It's also impossible to properly replicate, making this glitch an exceedingly rare one. So to investigate, I reached out to longtime Need for Speed modder and researcher Xan to inquire about this. And here's what I can share. So here we have a simple schematic of your car driving through a track. Around it are two grandstands and a rival car behind. In Pro Street, everything that produces sound has an aura of effect. So your car, the grandstands and the rival car all produce sounds. These sounds get captured by the game camera that's following your car. Now if too many of these sound areas start to overlap and your camera passes one of these points, the audio buffer that's trying to process all these sounds will overflow. And that's what's producing the sound you heard earlier. These spots with too many overlapping areas are very few and far between, and extremely small. Getting your camera into one of these is incredibly unlikely, which is what makes this glitch hard to reproduce and rare to encounter. Now with all that in mind, let's put this one on the board.
Given that we now know the background of this glitch, I will give this one 30 points for destructiveness. Depending on your speakers or headphones, this glitch could potentially break your audio device, or hearing for that matter. Though within the game itself, it remains rather inconsequential. There's nothing going on visually, so understandably it's getting no points for visual spectacle. However, this glitch is a prime example for a perfect soundscape score. It sounds so utterly demonic, like your entire system is about to collapse. It breaks through any and all audio limiters to produce the highest possible volume, and in doing so, could cause some serious damage. This glitch breaks any and all conventions for what a pleasant gaming experience should be on an audio level, and thus deserves a flat rating of 100 points in terms of soundscape. I will also award this one 60 points for XD factor, for the simple fact that loud does equal funny. Well, at least if we're talking video game glitches.
After this, let's take a look at a glitch that doesn't ruin your weekend, but instead is incredibly useful. For this one, we are going back to Forza Horizon 2. But this time, the Xbox 360 version, which is drastically different. And it just so happens to be drastically more broken too, as it includes a glitch that makes it possible to maximize your credits. On the launch version of the game, if you were to spend all of your money to the point where you're not able to fast travel anymore, the game will still let you fast travel anyways, despite not being able to afford it. And not only that, the next time you open up the map, you will see that you have the maximum amount of credits that you can have in this game. Just 1 credit short of 1 billion. Money glitches are always quite popular, and hardly ever legit or feasible to do in many games. But this one must be the easiest I have ever seen anyone be able to get large amounts of it. It's one of those glitches that makes you wonder how it got past playtesting. And in subsequent updates, it has unsurprisingly been fixed. Though this didn't change the fact that many players were able to buy everything they wanted in the game. Yet another quite simple glitch, so let's put it on the board.
For destructiveness, I will give this one 40 points. While it doesn't necessarily break your game or your save, it does utterly break the in-game economy and progression. For visual spectacle, I would give 30 points. Namely because we all like big numbers. Namely ones with a bunch of 9s in it. Soundscape is a 0, and XD factor maybe a 10. Honestly, money glitches are fairly boring overall in my opinion, because they're just not entertaining by themselves. And they also make the rest of the game more boring because, well, there's nothing left to achieve. And this makes for a low total of 80 points. Still, it is one of those glitches that makes you wish it would work in real life. Although I think if I took a train without a ticket, I would probably just get a fine, instead of a Nigerian prince offering me a more $1 billion.
While we're already revisiting games, let's go back to the first The Crew game, which has one more funny physics glitch. Submitted by Paraglider, this one only works on the newer Wild Run and Calling All Units updates, which dramatically changed the physics of the game. And usually not for the better, as you are able to do water skipping with your very own car. The key is to get into a car that's particularly light. The hot rod you obtain through finding all the associated car wrecks is particularly good at this. If upgraded to be fast enough, as you approach the ocean or any other body of water at high speeds, your car won't sink or even reset back to the road. Instead, it will start to glide over the water for a surprisingly long distance. In this clip, the car actually gets far enough to not be reset due to the water itself, but because it hit the map barrier. With this glitch, you might even be able to get to previously unreachable areas. Though with the game itself being offline and unavailable now, we will probably never find out. Thanks again, Ubisoft.
Destructiveness might have deserved a higher rating if people were able to use this glitch to get to new areas. But as is, it's simply abusing the broken physics of the game, so I'll only give it 30 points here. Visually speaking, it is pretty spectacular to see a car gliding across the ocean. But it's something I can also see getting fairly boring rather soon, so I'll only give it 40 points here. Besides the endlessly blaring engine and occasional water splashes, there's not much to note in terms of sound, so that'll be 20 points. I do find this glitch pretty amusing, but not funnier than the launch glitch we had from before. So that'll be another 40 points for XD factor. All in all, this makes for a total of 130 points. Look, don't we have anything more exciting left? I'm scrambling for words here, dude.
Yeah, okay. I still got one more that I wanted to keep for last. After Gran Turismo got its highest ranking thus far taken away by Horizon 2's speed glitch, let's see if it can take it back with one of the most notorious glitches known in the racing game genre. In fact, it can also be classified as a speed glitch, and is aptly called the 2,147,483,647 speedometer glitch. Or as it's more commonly referred to, the Escudo wheelie glitch. To understand how this glitch works, let me ask you a question first. Do you believe in gravity? In Gran Turismo 3, that is. Because gravity, as we understand it in physics, doesn't work exactly the same in Gran Turismo 3. Namely, there is no force pulling the car downwards toward the ground. Instead, the car pulls itself in the direction it thinks the ground is at. It is for this reason that it is impossible to flip your car in this game. This is done to keep up the illusion that the car will always fall back to the ground once airborne. As long as the wheels point towards the ground and the general velocity of the car is on a downward trajectory, the car will pull itself back down and nothing will seem out of the ordinary. However, with a clever tuning trick, this logic can be abused to make the car believe it is falling in another direction, namely forwards. The specific tuning setup required to achieve this can only be done on a few select cars, the Suzuki Escudo Pikes Peak being the best for the job. Its massive rear wing and pointy front end are the key to accomplish this glitch. By creating a dissonance between the downforce of both ends of the car, it is possible to create lift on the front end, which in practice will cause the car to perform a wheelie. In any normal circumstance, where gravity is accurately calculated based on real-world data, this should in theory make the car flip over and go airborne. Yet as we have established earlier, the game will prevent any car from flipping over, which allows the Escudo to remain in its wheelie position. But there is another key to unraveling the inner workings of this glitch, and it's by understanding that wind resistance is a myth in this game. While a slipstream effect does exist in Gran Turismo 3, this is entirely mechanical. In the real world, any object in the air can only ever achieve a certain maximum velocity based on its mass. This is known as wind resistance. The air in our atmosphere becomes gradually harder to penetrate and acts as an opposing force. However, in Gran Turismo 3, air does not exist. There is nothing stopping an object from achieving theoretically infinite speeds. So to bring this back to our wheeling Escudo, where the lift of the car and the game's automatic balancing effect created a circular effect, the car will reach a point where the wheels are effectively not touching the ground anymore, even if it may look like they do. With the factors we established earlier, that gravity is only a mere suggestion and air is a myth in this game, the game believes the car is falling forwards, with nothing in its way to stop its ever-growing speed. Naturally, on most tracks, a wall will stop the car from leaving the stratosphere. But we're not done yet, as there is a way to combine everything we've learned with another glitch to leave the track boundaries behind us. On the Seattle City track, there is a way to collide with a corner near the starting line in a way that pushes our Escudo out of bounds. Now heading towards the vast nothingness, we start to accelerate and let the magic happen. Depending on many factors, the game will either freeze, crash, or continue to run in the state we see here, which lets us observe various things. Namely, the speedometer completely broke the scale, showing an incomprehensibly high number. In reality, this speed would be even higher, infinitely higher in fact, as there is nothing stopping the car other than the raw computing power of the PlayStation 2. Being a 32-bit console, the number we see here is the highest it can display. But there's other things to observe, albeit harder to explain. There's a loud crashing sound once the car reaches the highest calculatable speed. Then the camera loses track of the car entirely, or maybe it disappears outright. There are numerous high-pitched noises playing throughout whose origin is unknown. The oil warning light lights up immediately, with the odometer hitting the same number we see on the Speedo. And with the visuals, well, I'm at a complete loss. Without a doubt, this is Gran Turismo's crown jewel of glitches. Hitting a speed so high it breaks the limits of the very console it's running on. In fact, 2.1 billion miles per hour is a little over 3 times the speed of light. That's enough to reach the planet Neptune the one farthest from Earth in our solar system, in just a single second. And with our Escudo now having left our stratosphere, who knows where it might end up. See you soon, Space Cowboy.
It's time to put the final glitch onto the board, and this time for destructiveness, I will be awarding 95 points. This glitch probably gets the closest to completely breaking your game without ruining your save file. It exposes all of the shortcomings of the game's physics while simultaneously pushing the console's boundaries to what it can even display and calculate. For visual spectacle, I will also be giving this one 90 points. It's almost an out-of-world experience, seeing the car gradually increase in speed while driving on two wheels, until it completely disappears, leaving only behind absurdly high numbers. I will also give this glitch 80 points for soundscape. The gradually increasing pitch of the revs, the tire screeching, the sudden crash, and the deafening noises make this one to remember. And finally, for XD factor, I will award 75 points. There's hardly anything more absurd than seeing a car like this pull off a wheelie at gradually increasing speeds. All of this leaves us with a grand total of 340 points, utterly destroying every single glitch we've seen so far, making this one the de facto best, most iconic glitch in racing game history.
But that's all just according to my rating, of course. The world of racing game glitches stretches far and wide, and what you've seen is just a small slice of what's out there. I could have mentioned countless more, but there would have been no end to this video if I decided to include everything. So instead, I want you to share your favorite glitches down in the comments below, and feel free to use the same criteria that I used for this video. As always, a big thank you to all of my channel members for supporting my content, but also all the people who gave plenty of submissions for this video. If you enjoyed it, I would appreciate a like and a subscribe if you haven't already. And with that, I'm out for today. Thank you all once again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.